Hi everyone, welcome to the Brandon's Candles YouTube video. We switched from our Zoom class because we realized that it was tough to find a schedule that worked with everyone. Some people are free in the weekends, some people are free in the mornings, and so we just figured we'd make a YouTube video. That way anyone who wanted to get some idea of how to make their candle beyond just reading instructions could still do that while doing it in their own schedule on their own time. So would you go ahead and jump right in here. If you purchased a kit off our website, it's most likely going to look like this, or it's going to look like the bigger kit box. So you can have a 1 candle making kit and a 2 candle making kit here. And today I'll be demonstrating the 1 candle making kit, but regardless of which one you choose, it'll be the same procedure. So now I'll unbox it to start, and we'll go through everything that's included in this kit. You see here, we have the candle jar and candle lid here. We have the candle die if you selected a dye color, or if not, then that'd just be not included because your candle would be naturally white. Then we have the fragrance. In this case, we chose mango and papaya, but you could choose from one of our 90 scents available on our website. And we have 2 wicks for you to secure to your jar in case one doesn't stick right, or you have an issue with one cutting it too short. You can always use the next one. Then we have a label here, and we should have 2 in case, again, there's a mistake. You can recolor it, redraw a picture on it later on, makes no difference. And then we have the wick stick ends, so these will be used later to secure the wicks. Moving on, we have our melting pitcher to melt our wax in. We'll create a double boiler with that. Now we have a wick bar. And we have a bag of wax here. This is our Brandon's Candles 464 all natural soy wax. It's our personal favorite wax to use. It's 100% all natural soy wax, and it is the cleanest burning, best burning wax we have pretty much tested and found on the market. We use it in all of our candles, and we recommend it for anyone that is choosing to make candles at home. In our kit, outside of our kit, it's just really a really recommendable wax. Now to get started here, we made our double boiler. I've been heating it up a little bit to save time. So if you want to go ahead and get started, you can plug this in. In our case, we used a skillet. We put water in it. We just used an extra pitcher, fill it with water, just tap water from the sink, and we're boiling it here to get some heat generated. You can use a stove top and a pot. You can use a microwave and something plastic and heat up the water in that. Really any source of heat. You can use a Bunsen burner. Your goal is to heat up a pot of water to put the wax into. So now what we'll do here is we'll add the wax into our melting pitcher. You see here we have the melting pot that's included. Take the 1 pound of wax and add all of it into the pitcher. Now that all of it's entered into the pitcher, we'll smooth it out and it should fit about perfectly. There it is. Then what we'll do is we'll put it on the double boiler. Now the point of this is to prevent the wax from getting too hot. If we had the wax directly on the skillet without the water in between, it could potentially overheat, causing the wax to burn or boil or anything there. We just don't want any negative side effects there. By putting the water in between, it prevents the wax from getting over that 212 degrees. So the wax will melt around 130 degrees, but it won't get too hot and won't cause any problems. Now moving on here, I'm just going to check the outlets and make sure this is melting. And looks like we are good. Still melting. Let me pick it up. Looks like we're still melting here. So our next step will be to prepare the candle jar. Again, you can just keep checking your wax in the background and making sure that it is melting. In our case, it's down about 1 inch from the top. You can see here that it's melted about 1 inch off already. So it's moving pretty fast. It might take about 5 minutes. Just let that sit, keep an eye on it. Of course, don't walk away from any turned on heat source. Now we'll move on to wicking our jar. So you'll have these glue dots that I mentioned earlier and the wick. You'll take the glue dot here and peel it off. There's a sticker on top. Just grab it by the tab, pull the tab off. Now you're left with a double-sided sticky surface here. It's just double-sided with stick on both sides. So you take this, bottom of the wick tab, press it on gently, and then pull it off. Now you have the other sided that's sticky, and that'll secure to the bottom of your jar. Then you'll take that, you'll press it down, and you'll be good to go. Now, What we'll do next is get the wick bar here, and we're going to slide it over the wick. See here, that's going to keep our wick centered. Then the trick here is to find the narrow side of the wick. It's about a rectangle shaped wick. Find the smaller side and slide it in that side first into the small groove there. What that'll do is that'll keep your wick secured in the center of your jar. So when you're done and you burn your candle, it'll burn straight down the middle, giving you an even burn pool and a great scent throw at the end. If you look back to our wax here, you can see that we're almost done melting. That's about over halfway done. We'll just let that sit a little bit longer, and then we'll be good to go. All right, welcome back. Now we've waited about 10 minutes for our wax to melt. Come over here, you'll be able to see our melt pool. Your wax should just look just like this. Pretty much clear, you see the bottom, stir it up here, and completely melted all the way through. Don't touch the sides of the pitcher, instead only grab it by the handle, and be very careful not to bump the aluminum. Now we're gonna do, to save electricity here, turn off our melter. Let's unplug it. All right, now it's gonna stop boiling. And then we're gonna take the pitcher off the heat so it begins to cool down. We're gonna lay paper towels down to not get our tablecloth dirty. Move this over there onto it. And then we're gonna begin mixing. So our first thing we're gonna add to it is the dye. We are adding the dye first because it takes a little while for it to break down and dissolve into the wax. In this case, we have one orange dye for our mango colored candle. I'm gonna place that right in there gently and watch it dissolve. I'm going to also begin to stir that up once it heats up, just about to go through the wax after about a minute, and that'll help mix it in. Start packing up after myself here to stay clean. And then stir this up. As you stir it up, you should see the orange color or whatever color you selected mix into the wax. And then you're going to keep stirring until that dye block completely dissolves. You can see here it's about half dissolved already, so we're just going to keep going. And 3/4 dissolved. And that's fully dissolved. Now the next step we're going to do, we're going to add our fragrance oil. So you see we're at Mango Papaya. We measure it out perfectly to have 1 ounce per candle that you make. That's pretty much the recommended ratio, about 6.5%, 1 ounce to 1 pound of wax. This is exactly 1 ounce, and we're going to dump it entirely into our pouring pitcher. Now we need that to be mixed in entirely, so we're going to use the stirring stick, the same one as before, and stir it up vigorously to get that fragrance completely mixed in. At this point, your room should start smelling like the fragrance that you select. But in this case, the entire room now smells like mangoes. And just keep stirring there until you can smell it pretty clearly. And see some bubbles forming on the top, and you should be good to go. And that's what we have here. Now, what you'd want to do is you want to wait for it to cool down before you pour it. Most people usually use a thermometer, wait till around 140 to 150 degrees. In our case, since we're making just one, we don't really need to get too technical. You're just going to wait till it's not as hot to the touch, and then pour it then. So in the meantime, we're going to make our label. Like I said earlier, you're given 2 labels, so you have 2 attempts. We are just going to use 1 label, and then we're going to call this the Brandon's Candles YouTube. So we know what this was. We'll make a little decorative there. And then you can take it, peel it off, and put it straight on the front of your jar. Now I'd recommend that you take a little more time than I did here. Maybe get some colored pencils out, some markers, Sharpies, whatever you're thinking. Draw a picture, make something about today's date, something that's, draw a picture about something that you're thinking of right now, really anything associated with the candle. It's your liberty, so just have fun with that. In our studios where we teach it, we see people draw pictures of like the beach or of the fall or of the candle scent or of mangoes or of anything they can really think of. It's up to you as how creative you want to be. You can spend as much time as you want while you wait for the wax to cool down here. I'm going to start cleaning up a while as we wait for that to finish cooling down. It feels like it's about 160 degrees. It's going to get a little cooler yet. And about this time, your heating source should have cooled down pretty well. So we'll move that out of the way. If it was a stove, I was not to worry about that, but your Bunsen burner can be put away now because we're done with heating. And then when you're packing up, don't forget your lid. You definitely do not want to throw that out because you'll need that at the end. And then we are pretty much good to pour here. It's around 150 degrees, so it's still a little hot, but we'll just pour it and make it work. It won't make much of a difference. Honestly, I would recommend waiting a little bit more, but in this case, we'll pour it here. Just stir it up again to make sure the fragrance is all dissolved. Once more. And cooling down, maybe about 145 now, honestly. Let it get down a little lower. Now we're going to pour that here once it's fully stirred in. See here, pour it gently in between the wick bar and the side of your glass jar. Carefully and slowly to not spill any, so you get all of your scent and candle in there. If you use all of your wax, you should get up to just past the lip. I see here, our candle with the scent and dye is fully poured in here, fully mixed in, now just waiting to be cooled. After this, you can finish packing up. What we're gonna do here is wipe out our pouring pitcher so we can reuse it. If you'd like to also reuse your metal melting pitcher, you can just take a paper towel, wipe down the insides, get that mango scent out of it so you can reuse it for your next candle. If you're making a 2-candle kit, this is exactly what you're going to need to do to start the second one. If you only have a 1-candle kit, then you can still wipe it out, so when you reorder candle making supplies, you can still use the same melting pitcher. Now, what I'll do here is actually just put this right back on to slightly warm water to melt the rest of that layer of wax on the bottom, and then finish wiping it down once it's warmed up a bit. Pretty good here. Wipe the rest of that out. And now this pitcher is ready to go in storage and be reused for the next time you'll need it. Or like I said, again, 2 kits, just do the whole process over again, bring the next bag of wax out, and start over. Now this candle is probably going to take about 1.5 hours to cool for this size. It's a 16-ounce candle, so usually you can estimate about 1.5 hours per 16 ounces of candle you're cooling. So if you have a bigger one, it's going to take a little longer, small one a little quicker. So we're going to let that sit here and be careful not to bump it. So you're going to want it on a table that won't be bumped for the next 1.5 hours. That way it cools evenly and has no chance of getting spilled. After 1.5 hours, all you're going to need to do is cut the wick bar, or cut the wick here with a pair of scissors. Undo that wick bar, so you're going to slide it back out and take it off, and then pop the lid on top, and you're good to go. If you did spill any on the side of your jar, don't worry, not a problem at all. You'll just take a paper towel, and while it's still warm now, you'll just want to rub a paper towel around that ring. Since we have no spills here, we're not really getting anything off. But if you did, we recommend cleaning off while it's still warm, just to be able to get all that wax residue off. Turn around like that, and you'll be clean. All right, well, that concludes our Brandis Candles YouTube tutorial on how to make your candle for one of our candle making kits. If you didn't purchase one of the candle making kits and just got some general supplies, you're just looking for how-to, you can follow this just as well. If you have your own scents or your own ratios, just remember to use 1 ounce to 1 pound of wax. And like I said, I recommend the 464 wax. We get the best results from that. Otherwise, feel free to contact us if you have any questions, and enjoy your day.